Hello, Josie. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello, Dad.
All right, Josie, what story are we talking about today?
Doctor Who and the Keys of Marinus, Dad.
Before we get into that real quick, you weren't here last episode where Elizabeth and I talked about Marco Polo. And she read the book and you didn't read the book, but you did try and watch the episode with us for the reconstruction. Yeah, the episode's lost. What did you think of the episode?
Well, the episode was kind of boring because it wasn't moving.
That's right, because there's no video. We just had the pictures. But it was also in color.
Yes, which is exciting, but it didn't move, which is not exciting.
Okay.
So it's good and it's bad.
Okay. Let's talk about the Keys of Marinus. We actually had a question of why we rate the episodes first, because most podcasts talk about the episode and then rate them. And the reason we do this is I want to hear what you think before you're influenced by anything that I say. So can you tell me what you thought of the Keys of Marinus?
Well, I would rate it to a 9 or 8 or maybe 7.
Well, you have to pick one.
I'm going to say 8.
An 8 out of 10.
Yes.
Okay. So you liked it pretty good.
Yeah, but not as much as the Daleks.
Not as much as the Daleks. I've noticed you have a rating system, which is that Dalek episodes are 10.
Well, 100. 1,000 affinity.
And then episodes you like are like 8 or 9, and then episodes you don't like are 1. And so far, there's nothing in between. I did not like this story.
It's gonna be a 1 or 2.
And no, because I grade Doctor Who episodes on a curve, so I can only give so many 1s or 2s. This is a 4, and it might even be a 3, but I gave it a 4. It didn't. We'll talk about this as we continue the podcast, but it did not feel quite like Doctor Who to me. It felt like a different show.
Like what type of show?
Well, it was like a different episode. It was like, okay, so you know how a Doctor Who story is made up of individual episodes, right?
Yeah.
In this one, each of those little episodes was its own self-contained story.
Yes, Dad.
Which is not how Doctor Who usually works. It's like a quest format, right? It's like there's a very, very loose story, which are about the keys.
Yeah.
But then in each individual story, it's completely different, right? There's the mind people. Mm-hmm. There's the creepy guy in the ice.
I do not like that.
There's the vines.
Me don't like that.
And then there's the city of...
Marinus.
No, not Marinus. Millennius. I think it's Millennius.
And what was the city of Millennius about again?
Where Ian's on trial.
Oh, yeah. That one was kind of exciting and kind of not exciting.
Okay. What did you think about what was the computer called that the keys go to? Do you remember that?
I forgot what the computer was called.
The Conscience of Marinus.
The Conscience of Marinus.
And do you remember what it did when it was turned on?
It exploded.
Well, that's what happened at the end because they didn't have all the keys. But do you know what the computer's supposed to do when it's working?
Well, it's supposed to control everybody with their minds.
Yes,
but
exactly
at the
right.
end and exploded because Ian gave the person a fake key.
That's exactly right. But how do you feel about a computer that controls everyone's minds?
Not so well.
Yeah.
I do not like that. That would be like a 1 or 0.
Okay, but that's what our heroes were doing for this entire serial, was trying to find the keys to turn the machine back on so that everyone would be controlled again. And the doctor, no one mentions that this is a problem until the very end, where the doctor has one line where he says, hey, maybe it's for the best that you don't have a computer that's controlling everyone's minds. Okay. All right.
Okay, that was funny. And yes, Dad is Leland and Leland is my dad.
Okay. Let's talk about differences between the episode as televised and the book.
Okay.
Did you notice any differences?
Yes, but I forgot them.
Okay. There were very few differences. This might have been the story so far that had the fewest differences. It was almost word for word as in the book. I found it easier to keep track of the additional characters in the show because they were so thinly written that in the book I just kind of glazed over them, but when they're actually acted on the show, it's easier to keep track of. Do you remember any of their names?
Ian, Barbara,
Okay.
Susan, and the doctor.
But
the rest of them I forgot.
You forgot? You don't remember any of the Marinus characters?
I forgot who they were called.
All right, let's see if we can remember. Who's the guy who sends them on the quest to get the keys?
Hold on, let me think. Arbitan?
Arbitan, very good. And who's Arbitan's daughter?
I forgot the name.
Remember, we had a hard time knowing how to pronounce it until we saw the episode.
Oh, cool. I see it like Mintha or something.
Sabitha or Sabitha. We'll say Sabitha for now. And then Sabitha's
boyfriend.
I guess we'll call him that for now. Altos. Yeah. I could take him or leave him. There was one line that was in the book that I remember that I don't think was in the show, which was when they're in Millennius and Ian's on trial and the whole legal system's ridiculous because there's no evidence against Ian, but he's guilty until proven innocent, right? And the doctor points out, like, this is insane. Like, the way you guys do this is totally messed up. And someone says, well, until fairly recently, the Conscience of Marinus handled all this for us. And so we've had to figure this out on our own very quickly. And so it painted this picture of a technologically advanced race, but that was socially inept in a way, right? Their growth is like the people of Marinus are advanced. It hinted at a more interesting story where the people of Marinus are technologically advanced, but their growth has been stunted. Their society has been stunted.
What does society mean?
Like the culture, their organization, their form of government. That's kind of interesting, right? Like a society or a government or a people who have like advanced technology, but whose growth has been stunted because they've just let this computer do everything for them. But that was I think the only difference between the book and the
city
show.
and the like. What was the city where Ian was?
Millennius,
and the machine on I forgot what it's called.
The Conscience of Marinus.
Yeah, they both are kind of the same. They let like somebody control on the island where Ian was for trial. Like it's kind of the same with the machine and on the.
Okay, but they never go there in any of the other stories, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing about the brains in the jars in Morphos that is any connection with the Conscience of Marinus, right? There's nothing about the crazy scientist and his vines that have anything to do with the Conscience of Marinus. And there's definitely nothing to do with the weird trapper in the ice that has anything to do with the Conscience of Marinus.
Well, here's something I wanted to say. Because on the Daleks Master Plan, there's an episode lost, which I am so annoyed about because that sounds amazing, and I want to hear it, and an episode's lost, and I am very annoyed with that.
Okay, we're going to get there later. I wish I hadn't... So to let our listeners know, we went over the episode titles for future episodes, and Josie is very excited about the Daleks Master Plan.
But when Dad told me that an episode was lost, I was annoyed, and I was mad, and I was sad.
Yeah, it's a bummer. All right, back to the Keys of Marinus.
Okay.
How would you have made the story more interesting? I've kind of already said that.
I would make it more interesting, like if they all got put in jail on the island where Ian was put to jail, and then Arbitan was not killed but was put in a powerful jail that was like magical or something, and then he tried to get out, and the Electrodus zapped him, and then he's dead. Like I want more exciting parts.
Okay. Yeah. You probably don't know of a show called Perry Mason. But Perry Mason was a show about a lawyer that takes place in LA in the 50s and 60s, which I am a huge fan of. And that episode felt a lot like Perry Mason. And actually, an unreasonable amount almost. And so I enjoyed that probably more than any of the other stories.
But one question about your shirt. Why is there 2012 on it?
Okay, why are you asking about my shirt during the podcast?
I want to know why.
2012 is the year that they were the champions. That's why.
What champions?
Of basketball. This is basketball team.
Oh.
Okay, back to the show. All right. Josie, let's check in with our main characters from the TARDIS. Do you...
The Doctor and Susan were like aliens, so I would say those are important.
Who's your favorite right now?
I don't know. Susan or Barbara or Ian?
So anyone but the Doctor?
No, Ian.
Ian?
No, maybe Susan Barbara.
Sounds like you're torn. Another thing interesting about this episode is the Doctor actually disappears for most of the story, right? He's in the first 2 episodes, and when they defeat the brains in the jars in Morphoton, he skips ahead to Millennius, right? And so we don't see him in any of the other stories. And I think that happens a few more times, at least in the first Doctor era.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm still with Ian, but the next episode is a big one. Elizabeth is going to join us for that one, and it is the Aztecs.
Yeah, that is the next podcast, which Elizabeth is supposed to be reading, but she's not because she's reading Babysitter Club books.
Okay. Well, listeners we don't need to air our dirty laundry for the listeners. Anything you would like to add, Josie, about Doctor Who? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I have a few things to tell them besides about Doctor Who.
Oh, okay. Oh.
That, yes, Leland is my dad, and we're living at...
No, we're not publishing our address on the podcast.
Okay, I'll
Weirdo.
tell you what time it is. It's 2020, no, something, first.
November 1st. All right, sit up. We always try to answer this question on the podcast. If someone has already watched the episode, do you think it's worth reading the book?
Well, maybe, because there's also differences.
But we talked about how there really weren't that many differences.
Well, there's differences, but I would rather just watch the episode and maybe make one of your members read the book and talk while you're on the podcast. Like that's reading the book.
I will say, I don't think this episode is very good, and I don't think the book adds anything, and I would never recommend anyone waste their time reading it. We should talk really quickly that the writer of the episode was the same writer as
the one with the Daleks.
That's right. It was Terry Nation. I think this is one of his only stories that don't have Daleks in it. And the novelization was written by Philip Hinchcliffe, who will be a big deal later. We will talk about much, much later.
Well, the Daleks' master plan, I thought, was the Master Dalek.
What does that have to do with anything? You're obsessed with the Dalek master plan.
What? I'm really excited about it. Like, they're a master plan, like going to do something with him and do something with that and then do something. I'm excited! Oh, guys, I have a little tongue trick. I put my tongue out and then I put it side to side.
They can't see that. Okay.
I know, but I'm telling them about it.
Yeah, look, sorry. We didn't have a lot to talk about. It's not a great episode. You want to do your sign-off?
Before I do the sign out, we have a special guest, which is named Toothless, and it's a stuffed animal, yes. And I really love him. I sleep with him every night.
Okay. Your stuffed animal.
Josie out, goodbye.
Your stuffed animal's not a special guest, but...
Yes, it is. Josie out, bye.
Thank you.